you will have all these things. Or maybe you don't have Lager because I think you have all these things because I just installed it myself a couple of days ago. And there are no LAStools. How do you enable LAStools? Well, you have to go to processing, options and configurations. That's obviously options, configurations. And then there's providers of tools. I mean, you see that little gear like a tool. And at the very bottom you see several things that are not included by default. CowDem, that's for flood analysis. So if you're part of LiDAR 1, you know, and you want to let lots of undergrad students and with no license cost do some flood model analysis, check out CowDem. It's pretty cool. Again, you need to download the software from the CowDem website and then you can link it in here. Just like you have LAStools already. So you can go in here and say activate. Activate, that means now it will show up in the toolbox, and you also need to tell QGIS where the LAStools are. And that now varies. Everybody has it in a different place. So, where are my LAStools? Well, the easiest way to do that is you go to your LAStools folder, and you copy the path. Control copy. For this, you basically need to go into this field here and sort of double click, and then you can paste. That's it. That's all it needs really to install LAStools in QGIS. Then you say OK, and suddenly you have tools for LiDAR data here. And it also installs the Fusion scripts. Now I didn't install the Fusion pass. If you also want to run Fusion from here, and a lot of foresters like to use Fusion and LAStools combined, then you can combine them inside of QGIS. Look, there's a lot of Fusion stuff right there. There are also filters for data and all that. There's a lot of interesting LiDAR algorithms also for you to look into. And here are the LAStools. These are all, they should look all familiar, all these names. We didn't use all of them, but all the LAStools are here. And I told you LAStools pipelines. This PHIL CHM is also here. This algorithm, PHIL CHM. And if I double click any one of those, then the toolbox comes up. Last ground, for example, or a very simple one, last view. And now the test, does it actually work, is last view is a good test case. You know, now I'm loading any last file you have. I say, okay, use that as the input. And that's the final test now. Does it work when you say run? For me it works. If it doesn't work for you, then several options. There is somewhere a space in your path. That's the most common error. You installed it like my space software, and then you install either QGIS or LAStools or something there. It's not a good idea. Using the default location to install QGIS, but more likely the problem is with where you have installed the LAStools toolbox. And if there's an error, and you want to know what then, and sometimes people say to write me, I tried to run it and it didn't work. What should I do? I mean, okay, I can't really help these people because I have absolutely no idea what went wrong. How can you find out if something went wrong? What the error is? Well, you go to processing, you look history and log, and then it will tell you the information of everything you ran and an error that where anything did not load correctly. But right now I did not have any error with last unit. These are some other errors from an exercise I did some time ago. Oh, and then here you can see everything that I've been running in the past. That was actually when I met the guy who created the processing framework for QGIS. May 15th, we gave a workshop together. And I tried different things in the workshop. And at the end, we created a model using the modeler. Now, I'm not going into the modeler today because I can't do everything, but the modeler is really powerful. The modeler is where you can combine different tools into larger processing chains, just like I wanted to. Wow, so this is a model, currently it's executing it right now. I'm sure that's going to work. This is a model I created a while ago in this workshop, and it was loading a bunch of flight lines, merging them into one. Then it was doing ground extraction, then it was classification of buildings, and then it was extracting the building footprints, and at the very end, it was loading that onto the canvas and displayed it in QGIS, all in one go. And there's a graphical interface where you can set up this model. Now, I'm in no position to teach that right now because I was a student myself in that course, and wow, but it did work. This old model that I created on May 19th, I just ran it, and because the data happens to be in the same place, because I used the same test data, this was just generated by QGIS by running 4 different LAStools. And maybe you remember these shapes. We generated it before also. And I was hoping it would work. And yes, it worked again. So this is, you see this model I created on May 15th. The first time I ever used the model builder. I didn't run a LiDAR tool, I ran a model, and the model used all these other models. And because everything you did once that's still in the log, you can just double click to execute again. And it did work. I wonder if I can look at that model. Show you how it looks. But that's pretty cool. I mean, I just went straight from the raw data to this, and it's in QGIS. So that's why I say it's very powerful. This is a graphical model. Maybe I can open model. Maybe I saved it. Oh yeah, here it is. I saved it. And here it is. Yay. So that's the modeler. And it's really cool. So I can now take my individual LAStools and I can say use this as input and then run last ground. And then you can go into last ground and you can set the options. I set the option to city and fine and so on. And then I can say this produces this file. And this file is A, saved, and B, I want to use it as input to last height. And then I produce this file, and I want to use that as input to last classified. And you can visually create this model in the model builder, just like, you know, a puzzle, put it together. And in the end, the classified one, I go to last boundary, and I double click last boundary. And remember, concavity here. We did that all by hand. Remember, it took forever. It took like an hour and a half to get there. And now this just ran like in a minute. And I created that 2 months ago, and I just accidentally realized it's still here. So we use keep class 6, keep the buildings, concavity, disjoint polygons, right? That was important, otherwise they all hang together. And output that footprint. And it's a very intuitive way to do this. And the cool thing is now, this works for anything that is inside of processing. So you can directly combine this with Fusion, with the image analysis, the outputs, like the Orfeo toolbox. You can combine it with Saga GIS, with any algorithm from Saga GIS, with any algorithm from Grass, with any algorithm from CowDem, you know, the flow modeling. And if you add this all together, I think you have a tool that's more powerful than Esri will ever be. Because this allows you to create really complex workflows that you can then just repeat, that's just like I did, months later, or just run on different software, just by changing the input. What was the input here? So this was my first ever, so the input is just a file. And I have no training in using this. And it was the first time on this May 15th that I used this thing. Admittingly, the creator of this thing was sitting in the room, but he was sitting about there. And I sort of started and said, I'm doing it right? He said, yeah, okay. And then he said one time, oh, you should do it like this. But, you know, I mean, you sit down a few days and you figure this out, and then you have something where you can mix and match many different things, including all of the LAStools that you. So now you see you have many different ways of using this software. GUI, QGIS, it works in ArcGIS too. And I try to make, they also have a visual model like this. Unfortunately, it constantly breaks. The version I have works on my machine, but it doesn't work on somebody else's machine. Maybe QGIS has the same problems, but this was created in version 2.2, and I just ran it in version 2.4, so that's not so bad, because I couldn't do that so far in ArcGIS. I created it in 10.0, and then it doesn't work in 10.1. Anyway, that was a little bonus I hadn't anticipated, that this old model is still around. And I will add more and more support for this, because I will meet Victor again, I think beginning of October, when we meet at a QGIS hackathon in Germany. But I really like how the results, of the entire LiDAR processing pipeline. QGIS is not a LiDAR software, but ta-da, they have the building footprints extracted from the LiDAR completely automatic. Depending on how much time we have today, I may look into this again, how to make your own, because these pipelines you can make yourself. These pipelines also use many LAStools. For example, huge file ground classified. This tool here uses several LAStools behind. Ground classification can only be done for files with up to 20 million points. If the file is bigger, it will run out of memory. But what if you have a flight strip, a long flight strip, and for some reason you need to classify that flight strip, that whole strip, like it is, and it's 250 million points. What do? You need a ground classified pipeline. I have a batch script for that in the batch script folder. I have an ArcGIS pipeline for that in the ArcGIS model, and I have a QGIS model for that. What does it do? Well, it breaks it into tiles first. So it reads a file, breaks it into tiles, puts a buffer around every tile, then does the normal processing where you can set it to whatever